Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supernatural as well as the latest episode of Beyond. Like always, if I'm talking about something you don't want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I have to say about this week's episode of Supernatural, you can skip to what I have to say about this week's episode of Beyond. But the first thing I want to talk about is this week's episode of Supernatural. Another great episode. Finally, we get back to the whole Jack situation in Earth 2 with everything. And I was actually quite surprised with everything. I mean, I like how the episode starts off. Like, you could tell it was like a dream, but I thought it was just something like Jack was naturally having. But it's like, no, one of the angels got inside of his head. Zachariah specifically. Is that the same angel that, like, Kurt Fuller played back in season 4, the one that was kind of pushing Dean to go through everything? Wasn't that him? Wasn't that Zachariah? Maybe it wasn't. I think that was the same angel, but it might not be. I don't know, because I forget a lot of angels' names, so it's just that's kind of me where my brain went. But that whole situation played out a lot differently than I thought it did. Like, without, even before I get to the whole how everything actually played out, I had assumed that everything was going to play out with it. Like, because there was a whole thing of like, oh, if we can't break him by fear, we'll break him some other way. I thought the whole, like, him being like, oh, using Castiel, I was like, okay, that's the front. He makes Jack think he broke free and everything, and then Jack's thinking he's getting away or something. But then it's like, because I figured that whole thing was an act, like Michael knocking Zachariah back and throwing him in a cell with Mary, and it's like playing it up, and like, oh, Mary figures out too. It's like, oh, if he comes in here, he'll torture me and then eventually kill me if you don't do what he asks, don't do it. Like, I figured that was all play acting. I was like, oh man, that Jack's going to end up finding out that basically he's kind of inside of a simulation. It's like, oh, thank you for doing what we wanted to. Like, I thought the entire episode was going to be that aspect of like, oh, it's all in Jack's head and that none of it was really happening. To be fair, there's still opportunity for that to be a potential possibility, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see for now. But I think there's still room for that to be. It just seems like it might be kind of like an Inception level thing, but we'll see. I mean, ultimately, what does happen is him and Mary getting away. They are bonding and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, because it's like Jack, and it's just like, oh, Jack. It's like, you wouldn't happen to be, oh, you're that Jack. It's kind of interesting. So, I mean, she was literally there when you were born, yes, but like she never actually got to meet you face to face. So but they end up coming across Bobby, who's like, hey, you look just like Mary Campbell. And it's like, oh wow. So now they were at the camp with him and everything. It is so interesting to understand how the world got the way that it is, because it is like the main problem in this world is angels. They've kind of like taken over everything, which makes you wonder, like, are there no, like, because the demons in this world aren't the typical demons. They almost look like berserkers. Like, they're so like mutated that they're not just like sentient enough to kind of handle things on their own, is kind of what I mean. It makes you wonder, how did all of demons get like that? I guess it's just a byproduct of like the war between angels and demons, heaven and hell, Michael versus Lucifer. But the question is, like, why did angels turn out the way they did? Like, why did they go to such extremes of like, oh, we're going to take control of this world, but for what purpose? Like, you ravage and destroy this world. So I guess Michael thinks, like, if he can go to the other Earth where, like, Lucifer, where everything didn't turn out this way, he can just kind of step in. I mean, especially considering, that's definitely going to be interesting, considering how Lucifer's kind of running things now in heaven. And in the moment Michael comes back, it's going to be like, oh, I think there's no way in hell that's not going to happen. I know, interesting choice of phrasing just there, but like, there's no way that's not going to happen with Michael coming back and he's like, oh, actually, I'm going to take that throne from you, Lucifer. I think most likely he's going to end up killing that angel that's right beside Lucifer. I forgot her name already, but the angel that's kind of joining his side. Like, just to prove a point, Michael's going to kill her and take control, and the other angels are going to be a lot more willing to fall in Michael, because it's like, oh my God, you're Michael. You're our guy. Oh, thank God, get rid of Lucifer. But then it's going to probably turn into a situation of he's going to repeat what happened on Earth 2 on Earth 1, so that's immediately where my brain is taking me with all of this. But the thing is, like, why did they do that? All they talked about is the fact is that angels eventually just turn on people. I mean, to be fair, over the course of this series, you kind of learn pretty early on, angels are kind of dicks. Let's use the example of that whole situation with Dean, of them manipulating him like that. Just like the demons were manipulating Sam, the angels also manipulated him too. Like the whole changing Dean's voicemail message was that the angels or that the demons. Either way, both wanted this to happen, so it could have been either or. So, but the fact of the matter is, angels have proven themselves time and time and again to kind of be dicks. Because it's a situation of like, they believe everything is one way and they won't falter from it because they're like, oh, this is all part of God's plan. We were God's first children, essentially. We're more important than humans. Humans are nothing more than bugs. Obviously, even Cassio thought like that at one point in time, that humans weren't really that special. But, you know, he's come to change. Because more so than anything, he's become more human and everything. So it just, I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting thing. It's also interesting learning more about like the byproduct of this world, understanding where everything went different in this world. It seems like the catalyst was Mary, because in this world, Mary didn't make that deal to save John. And because of that, she always lived in sadness and regret. We don't know how she died in this world, but because she never made the deal to bring John back to life, Sam and Dean were never born, and they were never there to stop what essentially became season 5, which does beg the question, I would assume that this is Michael's hosting. Because that's the question, like, the reason why, like, Lucifer wanted Sam was because Sam was like the perfect host, just like Dean was kind of the perfect host for Michael. To be fair, Adam kind of played that role well too. So it's like, were there other siblings that kind of felt that role? So the host that Michael's in, did he have a brother that Lucifer was in, or what? Did Lucifer end up choosing the same body? Is that why Lucifer lost, because he never found a good enough host? Like the same thing that happens to Lucifer, would that happen to any other host that Michael was in? Because that situation never came about. We only saw him in respective hosts, like, well, Adam. That's the only host we've ever seen Michael in, other than the one he's in now on Earth 2. So I don't know, that's something that kind of gets my brain thinking. I know I'm like going well off on tangents, but obviously the moment they found out that, I mean, it's just kind of an interesting thing, because no matter what Mary did, she's like, what she did brought a lot of pain to her son's lives, but ultimately because of that pain, that the world has been saved multiple times. It's actually kind of interesting considering the way this world is. So that means the whole Amara situation never happened, because the only reason why that happened was because of because of Dean getting Cain's mark, and the whole trying to remove, well, not trying, actually removing it and everything, which begs the question, like, that Earth 2 is in potential. I mean, it makes you wonder, where is Cain in this world? Like, there's so many questions. Like, I would assume all the princes of hell are dead as well. So, considering like the state of the world and everything. So, because it seems basically up till season 5, basically the storylines are kind of the same, except, you know, everyone that Sam and Dean have ever saved and anything that they've ever been a part of never happened. I mean, maybe to a certain extent it did because of the whole Mary situation, but nevertheless. But you have those moments, and it's so badass when Jack uses his powers, because there was Zachariah, and then he just lifts him up, and then poof, turns into smoke, and you have those other angels coming in like meteors, which is such an interesting aspect that that's what they look like. Because, you know, they've always been like a bluish white light here on Earth 1. At the very least, I'm thinking, like, anytime that they've fallen to Earth, it's always been kind of a bright light like that. But now they're coming at like meteors. I guess because they're not falling from heaven, they're being jettisoned like that. I guess maybe they don't have their wings in this world. Maybe they fell. Because the fact of the matter is, angels don't do that. They just teleport. So I don't know. That was kind of, why do they come in like meteors like that, unless they no longer have their wings and they kind of jettison themselves like that? I don't know. But Jack just kind of destroyed them while they were in the sky and just made them kind of all explode. So that was pretty badass. So Jack's kind of the ultimate weapon. So I do appreciate the fact is that him and Mary are going to be fighting this war. I kind of figure, because it's like, because even like, it's like, oh yeah, your boys Sam and Dean, they offered me, you know, Bobby, to come to their world. But it's like, no, that world's got them and you, but this world, I'm kind of all that it's got, you know? So I'm curious, like, that's kind of an interesting scenario of like, oh, they're there to help win this fight, because if they don't stop the angel, like, because even if they don't help and just go, it's not going to erase this problem. Michael still is going to be searching and trying to find a way to this other Earth. Yes, granted, them coming to this Earth gave him the idea, like he would have never known it was a thing or even possible if they had never crossed paths. I don't think he would have. Maybe he would have. I think meeting Lucifer cemented that in his mind of like, oh yeah, there are other worlds out there. So other worlds that he can conquer. So I don't know whether it's just going to be this Earth 1 that we know that he's going to try and conquer, or will he try to conquer everything in what is essentially a multiverse, you know? So we will kind of have to wait and see on that. But I'm very curious to see, can Jack actually pull it off? Because to be fair, Nephilims have the potential to be stronger than the angels that Bert are their parent. In his case, his dad being Lucifer, an archangel, versus Michael, an archangel. To be fair, Lucifer's weaker because obviously Michael killed him. So I don't know. We have to see. There's no telling fully what Jack is capable of, but like I said, that might all be playing into his hands because this could all be an illusion, or just ultimately when Jack tries to do the right thing. Because the name of this episode is Good Intentions, because even when you try to do something nice, it always backfires. In Jack's case, anytime he's ever used his powers, things have backfired. The reason why they were able to track him is because he was showing off to the kids, trying to, brighten their day up, and that ended up letting, did I say magic or did I say powers? I don't remember. I got so caught. Nevertheless, when he used his powers, they were able to track him that way. So I'm very interested to see that storyline continue. I'm very glad we got back to it, though, because I was so eager to find out. Because I thought we would have gotten back to the moment Jack was there, and it's like, yo, but it's like, no, we've kind of time skipped to the point, because it's like, oh yeah, we've been messing with your head trying to get inside you, which is interesting too, that Mary kind of pointed it out, and that kind of as an interesting aspect, that the wards are so strong that even humans can kind of feel them. So, which I'm wondering, does that affect Jack on multiple levels? It affects him both as an angel, but also give him migraines because he's also a human. Would angels actually naturally, that might be the thing, that might be why he's getting headaches, because the wards are strong, so they're keeping his powers docile, but because he's a human, it's naturally hurting him too. So I don't know. That's one half of the episode. The other half of the episode deals with the whole Donatello situation. Did not see that coming. I was like, why did Donatello snap? Is it because the demon tablet was teaching him oh, no, you can't trust them? Or is it trying to get him was it something in it was driving him to go, no, we can't let them use this power because it's too great, it's going to cause too much. And it turns out what the ultimate problem was is because he had no soul, it corrupted him. I was like, oh, that sucks. Specifically because it's the demon tablet. It makes you wonder, would the angel tablet have done the same thing to Kevin if Kevin didn't have a soul? I mean, it seems like you would have to worry about that more with the demon tablet. But then there's a situation of, once again, angels in this show can kind of be dicks too, so there might be something up with that. Or maybe it kind of completely changes your personality in the sense of you might go a little dark side a little bit, but because you're kind of oh, I'm so in touch with the light, yet any bit of darkness has to be eradicated for a perfect utopia. We're trying to, a mentality like that, where it seems like that's kind of heaven's thing, anyway, within the confines of the show to a certain extent. I'm going off on a huge tangent, so I do apologize, but all the stuff is just randomly bopping in my head. I did like that they had to fight Gog and Magog. The way they were talking about, a place that exists out of time and all that stuff, I was like, can you find is this supposed to reference them being in the big empty? Turns out not to be the case. It just seems like they were just sealed off somewhere. But I did like that conversation, and they're like, oh, Timma, we challenge whoever released us, whether it be, the person who released us, he, and the other interrupted, she, and it's like, why did you interrupt me? I was like, well, I don't know. And they're literally taking time to argue, and you have Dean over there laughing because it's like, oh, look at them in their loincloths. They're like, and you have Cass being like, what the hell are you laughing at, Dean? And it's like, okay, fine, which one do we start with? And then Magog and Gog are like, let's start with the pretty one. And then the other one's kind of like, well, they're both kind of pretty. It's like, fine, I'll take the small. It's like, this conversation's really happening. Turns out, all part of, Donatello's plan to basically get them killed, because he is corrupted. And sadly, there's no way to fix him, apparently. Because, at least with Sam's case, Sam's soul still exists. It's like Amara ate his soul. Which, is it gone forever, or does it exist in Amara, is kind of the question. It seems like it's no longer an issue because Cass kind of solved that himself by basically killing Donatello to a certain extent, making him brain dead. He's still alive, but basically ripping all the information from his brain kind of basically destroyed his brain. So that sucks. That's kind of a brutal way to go. I would think, there'd be a little bit better if he had just outright died. To be fair, I wonder, because he was, well, that was the whole situation too. Can you even become a ghost without a soul? I don't know how that whole situation works. I mean, because like when Sam went into that jail, went into the cage, he wasn't a ghost. He was alive. He had a physical body and everything. But like, if Donatello had died, like naturally, would he have been able to become a ghost since he doesn't have a soul, or would he just have ceased to exist? Which maybe that would have been better. But because I was thinking, like, if he had a soul, like if he was a ghost, would that mean that his ghost would be kind of even more of a dick than just a vengeful ghost simply because he didn't have a soul with that affected? But it's like, no, like I don't think, a spirit is because a soul couldn't move on. So yeah, he wouldn't have one. He just ceased to be once he died. It just, I don't know. There's no like good way around it. I was so curious what they were going to do with that storyline because like every time it's like, oh yeah, they kept bringing it up. He has no soul. He has no soul. It's like, oh yeah, because it's playing into the storyline. It's so interesting when like something like that was. Let's not forget like the whole Amara situation was back in season 11, and it's like who knew that it kind of bring like I said, it's something unique that this show does. Like it takes stuff that you haven't seen or heard of in years, and then brings it back. And sometimes in good cases, in other cases, like why did you do that just to bring so and so back just to kill them? I'm looking at you, Missouri. How could you do that to the Loretta Devine? That's all I'm saying. I just can't believe that character popped up after like 11 years. And he's like, oh yeah, we're killing you. To be fair, it was also to introduce her granddaughter, so that plays a whole role in it too. But nevertheless, like I said, that's just one of the most recent examples. They've done it plenty enough times. I'll stop being an asshole about it. I'm joking. I most likely won't stop being an asshole about it. But nevertheless, it's kind of interesting because I feel like we're seeing Cass go all dark side because Cass is and his willingness to do whatever it takes. He's talking about I am a good soldier, which makes me kind of think more of Cass at the beginning, like kind of willing to do whatever for the mission. In this particular case, it's like this, like oh, like we know he knows war is coming, and it's like maybe that's why I'm brought back because he's trying to figure out his purpose in all of this. Because it's like well, it can't be protecting Jack because in his mind it's like I failed at that, so it's like I got to figure out what I got to do, but I got to get Jack back no matter what because I made a promise to his mom. But there was the whole fact is that Jack should be with Cass because Cass will teach him to be the kind person that he is. And maybe that kind of plays into it. Maybe when Jack comes back and he meets up with Cass and sees all that Cass has done, maybe it pushes him to go, no, really recognizing this is bad, Cass, you've gone too far, and kind of making it seem like, oh, like Cass taught him to be good. Like everything he learned from Cass and Kelly and Sam and Dean has helped him be who the person he is, and that Cass is there to play the villain role and make Jack have to stand up to him and realize like, no, you're just kind of as bad as my biological dad, something like that. I don't know. Just the fact is that his willingness to kind of do whatever at this point in time is going to be a scary thing going forward. I mean, Sam and Dean want their mom and Jack back too. So it's like, it seems like, are they 100? Like, obviously they're not okay with what he did, but they've crossed the line too. But it's still like, no. This, especially because it's not like he was a bad guy. This is an ally and a friend. Yeah, he was in a terrible situation. It's like, maybe this is the kinder route, especially when, Castle's like, oh yeah, also he was working for Asmodeus. Wait, what? It was against his own will, sure, but he was still doing it nonetheless. So it's like, oh, I didn't expect them to find out like that exactly. So now it kind of makes more sense what was happening to Donatello, this whole situation while he was getting all weird and irritable like that. It had slowly done that to him. So I am curious, like now that he's gone, like, I mean, his brain's kind of been, I would assume, kind of been turned to mush. It's like, would Asmodeus be able to get anything from him at this point in time? And what does that mean now that he has one less mole? And then there's also the whole situation with Ketch, kind of being a double mole. Also, we ended up learning from Cass the many different ingredients. One being an Archangel's Grace. But let's not forget, we won't just need Lucifer's not the only one that's on the table. There's also Gabriel, because we saw that he's around and in Asmodeus's clutches. So that might be the route they end up going. The fruit from the Tree of Life, Solomon's Seal, and the blood of the holiest man. So I caught a glimpse of next week's episode. I think that's the next ingredient. That's the ingredient they're going after next. Because I think the next episode is called The Holiest Man, or at very least it's them trying to find the ingredient. It may not be that they are successful at it. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, like I said, great episode altogether. Yeah, I'm very interested to see where everything kind of takes us. Like I said, whether I'm right about the whole Jack situation, whether that's all in his head or that's really happening, or maybe there's more at play there, So, and then also this whole kind of, like I said, dark side cast willing to kind of do whatever. The question is, like, why was he brought back? And will the big empty play any further role in this season or not? Like, since they've established that, I'm curious to see what else they decide to do with that. But we'll just have to wait and see. A lot of stuff in this, we'll just have to wait and see. So. And now moving on to this week's episode of Beyond, another great episode. So much went down in this episode. Let's break everything down. Holy crap, is that thing inside of Diego powerful? Because like I said, this is like our first time seeing Holden kind of go all out against someone. And even then, it wasn't enough. Like, Diego kept getting up like it was nothing. To be fair, it's a situation of probably that bodies might be battered and bruised. To be fair, it also seems like it heals, but like some of his scrapes are still there, so maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's more like, even if the body's broken, it's more like a marionette. I think it's something I kind of brought up last episode. Maybe it is more like a marionette thing where it's like, oh, it can keep going as long as the host's head doesn't get chopped off or something. It's like, oh, I'm still good. I can still move this body. Maybe even the head still got chopped off. It could probably do that. I don't know. But it's like, no matter what Holden did, it just kept getting back up, and that sucker is tough. Super lucky the cops came when they did. I'm curious. What really got me was the fact is, I was like, why would the cops go? Apparently, some people saw what he did. Like, some people were, I guess, outside at the time and saw what Diego did to the dude at the bowling alley. And then they show up and he's attacking Holden and everything. And then basically he shows Holden. And I like what his whole shtick is. Like, he's kind of messing with people's head, which is kind of interesting. Like, he shows Holden, like, his entire family basically dying, kind of getting swept up. And then at the same time, he also showed that to Charlie, the most important person to her, and that's Annabelle, kind of being killed. Kind of almost like withered away. Like, it just seemed like her entire body was kind of like rapidly aging, but more like decaying, So, you had Charlie telling Holden just to run away, but Holden can't. Not only because if he doesn't, like, this isn't just about him. This is a worldwide extinction. They want Holden dead because Holden's one of the few people that can stop them. And it's like the last thing they want is a problem that, could be used against them. And the fact of the matter is, like, for Holden, it's like, even if he ran, this would still go down because it is a worldwide extinction. But so the only way he can protect his family, not just his family, but the entire world, is if he stands and fights. And he kind of talks about Charlie, how basically Charlie is scared. The fact is that she runs, like, she kind of displaces her problems. Like, what did you do about her sister situation? She hid her away. What did you do about me? You avoided me. It's just like when Charlie is scared, what does she do? She kind of runs away, but at the same time, she just kind of shifts her problems away, shifts them away from her, so that it's no longer an issue. Kind of always being on the move, never kind of staying in one place, essentially. So, and you could tell that kind of bothered her a little bit. I wonder what was her main reason for doing that, staying at the police station. I mean, I guess it's because it's not like, it probably was the fact is that Holden asked her, like, would you still be here? She never answered, like, when I come back, but she stayed. Which is like, come on, yes! It's like, come on, I want that to continue being a thing. I want Charlie and, Holden so badly. Sadly, things between Luke and Willow aren't that good, even though they were heading in the right direction. But Luke was like, I can't do this. She's like, well, he's like, I'm super into you. I like you. You're amazing. You're like the coolest person in even Fort Reed. Like, if you took every person in Fort Reed and combined them together, they wouldn't be nearly as awesome as you are. But it's because he has feelings for her. He wants to distance her, because no matter what, even if Holden's being an asshole, which to be fair, both of you are kind of being assholes. Holden's dealing with a lot of shit right now at the same time. But it's like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Luke. The fact of the matter is, it's like, that's still my brother, and I can't do that to him because you two are dating, and that's not right. So no matter what the circumstances are, and Willow's like, I'm so stupid, because I guess at the same time, it's the second Matthews boy that she's kind of developed feelings for, and it's kind of backfired and blown up in her face. So it's just like, I can't win. I'm so. Which, because the fact of the matter is, this all kind of stems back to the whole thing about Luke. Luke doesn't. He's always had issue because it's all like Holden's always been the center of the attention for the family just because of what he was going through. But it's like Luke probably always felt like there was no room for him. And now it's like with everything that's going on, like Holden and his, like, it's like you got everything. And now, because, and it's something that, going, well, I'm kind of going to combine these two things. It's like, it's something Charlie brought up in the episode, and I'll kind of get to it later on. It's the whole like, oh, with abilities, it makes you special. It's like, special? Nobody wants to be special. And it's something that Luke was like, oh, all you do is whine. But it's like, having those abilities isn't 100% a blessing. It is a curse. Because of that, like, he's plagued by all of this stuff that's haunting him. And it's like, oh, I'm sure you'd want the abilities, but you get so much more with it. There's a burden and a weight that you kind of have to carry with that. Like, it doesn't make you feel special. You just want back what was yours. Because the fact of the matter is, having abilities and awesome and everything, but it will never change the fact is that Holden will have, there are 12 years of his life he will never get back. It might seem something normal, but the fact of the matter is, it's hard to wake up and everything you've ever known is different. Your whole family structure, everyone's older, you're older, so much of your life is gone. And that's not easy to deal with. But Luke, he's dealing with it in his own way, because the fact of the matter is, like I said, he's always in those 12 years had to worry about holding this and holding that. And now, even now, like, Holden's kind of sweeping up everything in their lives. Diane finally tells Luke the truth, because he catches her destroying all these things because she's looking for those cameras. And you have Luke being like, why are we fighting so hard to protect Holden's feelings? Did you ever think about the fact is he might be hiding stuff from you? He's more than capable of protecting him. It's like, we're up here just protecting his feelings, which obviously he's lashing out because of everything that's going down right now between him and Willa. So, but I think on some level, maybe he realizes that. But at the same time, it's like, the fact of the matter is, it's like, because of Holden's BS, like, now our family's being dragged in. And granted, Luke doesn't know that Holden was attacked and everything, so... But maybe it's kind of making him look at a different perspective, because maybe he's starting to see, like, wow, I'm kind of being, I don't know, like, I get where Luke is coming from. You can't deny, it's like, okay, you're being a little selfish, but at the same time, it's like, you care about your brother, and you're trying to help him and understand, but it's just like, they're not on the same wavelength right now because of everything. And so we do see him with Borden's card at the end, so I can only assume he's going to go tell her what he's going to tell her everything, because Luke knows quite a bit about this whole Hollow Sky situation. So it's like, because the parents are still in the dark about a lot of things, because Holden hasn't told them anything. So I'm wondering, how much is Luke going to tell her? Can't really tell her everything, because it's not like she believed them. But if Luke can do anything to make things easier for his parents, it might not even be for Holden necessarily. It might be more so for his family said, because like, he's so pissed at Holden right now. He's like, well, whatever, Holden's situation is Holden can take care of himself, but we, the normal people, our lives being turned upside down because of this whole situation, I gotta look out for us, because Holden's not, he's caught up in his own BS. Like I said, it's because Luke's kind of pissed at him right now and everything. I think that's it. It seems like that's what it's like to me. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe it is like more so the entire family that he is looking at, even Holden himself. Like I said, it's still a certain degree, but I feel like his main focus is his mom and dad, like them being caught up in all of this. So how that will turn out, I do not know. Once again, like, Borden, I don't really trust her. Like, it's more so just like, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like it's kind of like the whole agent, what's his face from Riverdale. I made the same comparison before, but I'll reiterate it here. The fact is, I kind of feel like she's just not really got the authority to really do this. She's doing this on her own, and she doesn't really have the FBI's backing on this whole situation, because she's probably spent so much time tracking down this Hollow Sky situation that she is willing to do and sacrifice whatever it takes to kind of, because she seems kind of like that. She seems a little slimy with her way and approach to everything, and just kind of like she's willing to use and manipulate people. It's kind of how I felt about her from the very beginning, so I really don't like her. So, but ultimately, we'll see what goes down between her and Luke in the next episode. One part of this episode, we had Charlie and Willa sitting down and talking, and Charlie kind of finally explained her history with Arthur, because that Willow was like, oh, you think Holden because you're both special, you're special like him. She's like, special, like, this whole thing isn't special. I don't feel special, because basically me being quote unquote special has ruined my life. She tried to kill herself, she ended up in a coma, met up with Arthur, and it's like, oh, I finally found a place I can feel safe. Oh wait, Arthur just wants to use me in his little, let's basically call it what it is, his dick measuring contest with Frost, just wanting to outdo each other with that whole everything. So there's that, but then it's also like, I couldn't give him what he wanted. Like, what, like, I guess what makes Holden special is because Holden can manipulate the realm to a much bigger degree because he controls the elements, meaning he can control the realm. And because of that, like with what Charlie could do, I guess it wasn't enough. Once again, I'm curious. Well, your powers translate a little bit, so he controls the elements in the realm, but he doesn't necessarily control them like that in this world necessarily. It doesn't work like that. So it then begs the question, like, well, I mean, it kind of does. It's kind of really hard to say because a lot of his ability kind of works a little like telekinesis. But it's like, is when I'm thinking he's using telekinesis, is that him just kind of using wind when he kind of like shoves someone with like his power to kind of boost his strength and stuff like that, essential on flying? Or is that just like the power like, is it manifesting itself in a different way here in the real world? And the other question I was asking is like, what about Charlie? Is hers the same way too? Like, does her power actually work even in a larger degree? Because obviously in the realm, it's a lot stronger, I would assume. So I would assume that means like he's like, Holden's like way stronger than he is on this world as he is in the realm. I mean, to be fair, he hasn't been in a situation where he can manipulate the elements, like kind of go all Avatar. Like I'm probably maybe if given the opportunity, he could. Like I don't know if it's going to be like summoning them, but at the very least, if they're around, maybe he could manipulate fire and stuff like that. But nevertheless, getting back to it, I'm just curious with Charlie, like her powers actually quadruple and what she's able to do in like the realm. But nevertheless, but he dropped her. He left her. So the way she makes it sound, it almost is like she had to fend for herself in that time during the realm. We never really find out how it is that people come back from the realm. How did they just get back to the body? How did Holden get back to his body? How did Charlie? Like that's a question that's still not really been answered, at least not to my recollection with season 1 and yet with season 2. If you do know, let me know in the comments down below if they've said anything like that. I don't think they've ever really gone in. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, you just one day wake up. So but the way like she makes it sound like he dropped her, but I would assume it's kind of like she kind of had to fend for herself for a while in the realm, and as we know, that's another place that's very meant for that. And then also when she woke up from her coma, she didn't have him to rely on. It's like she didn't have a lot of things, and it's like, oh, you're the one that understands everything I'm going through, but you're dropping me because I wasn't of use to you. So hence why Holden and many other people, just caught in this whole situation with Arthur. And now there's a whole, and then she actually went to go work with Hollow Sky just because she wanted to fill like that void, try to fix her life, get back those years she lost, and just kind of basically be like Holden. And what I think that's why she's so harsh on Holden with this whole like him trying to be normal thing, kind of telling him to embrace his powers a little bit more. It's because she probably tried it herself, tried so hard to get that normal life, and she doesn't want Holden wasting his time because it's like you can never get back what you've lost, so. But we do see that her, she sits down and tells, most likely Willa everything that's happened. So the thing I'm drawing away from that, I'm curious about, well, for one, it seems like we're slightly getting, Willa and Charlie on good terms, finally understanding each other a little bit more. But at the same time, I'm curious what this means for Willa and Arthur. Like, was she, it's her grandfather and everything, but still after everything he's done, obviously seeing that what kind of damage he did to the point that Charlie would want to kill him, so. But, Charlie also informed Willa about the whole situation of what happened to Holden. I mean, he didn't tell her, not like they're necessarily in a speaking situation now. So, but now she knows. So I'm curious what's going to happen on that front as well. Then you have the whole situation with Tom getting arrested because beating the crap out of Ian, which he turns himself in. What Giant's like, you don't need to do that. It's like, well, if I do this, maybe we can, help push the narrative more towards like, well, the fact is I did it because Ian is spying on my family. So he's like, I didn't support you before with this whole situation. At least let me support you now. Let me do this. Goes, but then finds out about the whole like Holden situation, kind of snaps. On top of all that, just Tom made the situation worse for himself. When it comes to his family, his emotions kind of get the best of him, in particular his anger. So it's kind of his undoing. So, and then let's not also forget we have Yellow Jacket back in Fort Reed because he ended up visiting Ian. That was kind of interesting. And that whole conversation of like, oh yeah, things disappeared. Oh, things can disappear quite easily, basically threatening Ian, and you can tell Ian's super terrified. Even though that's the case, he still did not delete those files. He still has access to those cameras in that in the Matthews family home, which ultimately Yellow Jacket is going to find out, and he's going to kill you because you're a liability at this point in time. Like, I think legitimately he is obsessed with that family. family. Not even just about the Holden situation. I think it's just because he's weirdly obsessed with Diane, but maybe it's a combination of the two. Maybe his obsession started with Holden just to keep an eye on him, but then I was like, oh yeah, he started feeling more intimate, voyeuristic about the whole like Diane situation, just kind of being a weirdo pervert, just badly bruised and beaten, and you're still spying on Tom's family like that. It's crazy. And then finally, we also had Holden and Jeff going to meet Edgar. Also, I love the doctor. I forgot her name, but that doctor, the actress who plays that doctor, she's been in Continuum. Most recently, she plays Grace on Travelers, the Netflix show. I mean, it's a Netflix show here in the U.S., but it's like a Canadian TV show. So, nevertheless, that's what makes me wonder, is this like a Canadian show? Just because it's one of those situations where you see certain actors, you're like, oh, I see you in a lot of stuff that typically I feel like is Canadian stuff, which it's maybe the same thing as American stuff too. It's just always weird. I feel like I notice it so much more with Canadian television shows and stuff, is why I feel like that's the case. Because I feel like Continuum is one. I know Travelers definitely is a Canadian show, so I assume she's a Canadian actress. But nevertheless, beside the point, that's kind of a tangent on its own. I do love them speaking to Edgar, and it's like, I mean, he's not responding. It's like, oh, I'm Holden Matthews, and he looks at him, and he's like, oh, he starts smiling and talking. And I like the perspective he brought up. He's basically kind of like, oh yeah, the reason why I know all this stuff that I know is because there's a man in my head talking. Basically, the realm talks to anyone who's willing and able to listen, honestly, if you can. And so it manifests itself in different ways, which, you know, all of Holden's manners have his situation, like, whereas Edgar's is more like here, kind of an auditory type of situation. It seems like Holden's isn't a mental vision type of way, because everything he's seen. And then that started making me think, oh, the person in the chair, could that be the realm itself? Like, physical manifestation, kind of make this comparing it to the Speed Force in the Flash, like where the Speed Force is kind of like this entity that can like take on a physical form if it needs to. Like, what if the realm can do that too? Like, what if that is what that person in the chair whose hand we saw? Or that might be something else entirely. It might be something that's actually sealed away inside of the realm. Like that, these things, that like the thing that's inside of Diego, maybe they come from something specific or someone specific, and that's what's in that chair, like some darkness that was sealed away in the realm. That might be what we kind of lead to, like an ultimate big baddie. Who knows? Or like I said, it could just be the realm manifesting itself in that way. I mean, it seems like more so its way of talking to you is either like with Edgar, where it's like a voice in your head, or what. But he starts breaking so much stuff down. Basically, he explains that the freezer is the only way to get to the realm, and it's going to help everyone. Basically, he's been hiding it specifically from Hollow Sky, who've come to visit him every so often to basically try to pump him for information. But he's like, nah, I'm not going to break. But the fact is, it's kind of like, I guess it's like a real world portal. And maybe that's why every time Holden would touch it, he have a vision about the realm, because it's literally a gateway. Like, typically you have to be in a coma to get there, and so maybe this is an actual physical way into this world to get there. So, which will make them accessing it a lot easier, considering the fact why he's probably hidden away. It makes you wonder, do they know what's in that freezer themselves? Because this way they don't have to worry about the machine, that they probably have a lot more of a more controlled, easier access way to get to the realm. So, but basically, it seemed like the whole plan is to basically get everyone in the freezer so that they can all go to the realm to get away from, it's like that's the key to saving everyone. I mean, more so than anything, it wasn't even to be used like that. It's meant to be like, I need you to use it so you can prevent them from coming back to this realm. Like, if you can shut that passageway off, those things won't be able to cross over, because I guess it's like a little tear in reality that's in that freezer, and so it'll allow anything to pass through. Like, just because you pass through doesn't mean you're going to be locked in it. Like, you're more like an entity of energy or something like that, so you can operate. I don't know, it's hard to explain my thought process behind it all. Like, maybe that's what it is, because he was basically telling Holden to keep the others from coming back. Sadly, that's a little too late. It never even crossed my mind. These things inhabit bodies that were in comas. It's like, well, Hollow Sky has a huge freezer full of people in comas. And so all of a sudden, we have that lady in that room, and all those people start knocking, and you see Diego in his cell smiling, and it's like, dude, shit is falling apart hard. and fast. Things are about to get crazy. We are actually at the tail end of the season, I would assume. I don't know how long the season is. You know, these type of situations, something I bring up all the time. Maybe this season's going to be longer. First season was only 10 episodes. This was episode 7, so there's only like 3 more episodes left. If they're going with 10 as well, typically some things tend to kind of continue, but other things kind of boost in future seasons. So maybe it's boosted, maybe it's like 12, maybe it's 13. Well, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm curious to see how this all plays out. Jeff and Holden sadly had to leave Edgar behind, but he gave them a distraction by setting the TV on fire. I do appreciate that the doctor's kind of like, oh yeah, he's got to have like pyrokinesis or something. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, I know it's a little crazy, but you know, when you think about everything that's happening, it kind of makes sense. She was actually pulling a little bit from Arthur's books too, which is kind of interesting. So, I mean, God, this stuff just keeps getting crazier and crazier. This season just keeps getting better and better with all the developments. Not even just story-wise, like with just the overall plot, but also just like the interactions and developments between the characters is very good too. But I'm very curious to see what goes down. Because Holden could barely beat one. Not even barely. He couldn't beat one of these things. And now you're telling me that there's a mass army coming? Like, I have no idea what's going to happen. Because right now we have how many people with abilities? We have 3. We have Charlie, we have Holden, and we have Edgar, who's granted still locked up in a facility, but I'm sure they're going to remedy that situation soon enough. So I'm curious to see what they would do continuing this forward. Just really, even really quickly, like Team Superpower, like would their base of operation be Fort Reed? Like what would be continuing forward with this whole thing? I don't know. Then there's the whole Frost situation too. Like where is his body? I was wondering, it's like, oh, is his body being disappeared? Was that supposed to be something else? But it's like, why is that there? You see his life vital signs and you see an empty space. So it's like, where the hell is his body? I guess you don't, I don't know. So many questions. Also interesting to know that Tess has no idea what's going on exactly because, you know, Yellow Jacket claims that he knows how everything's handled. And it will probably be forever before we actually get his name, his actual real name. Because even Ian's like, oh, so what's your name? He's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's probably never going to matter. It's probably one of those situations of, nah, you don't need to. He's Yellow Jacket, but Yellow Jacket, but Yellow Jacket. So that type of thing. So I don't know. Ultimately, we just, besides all that, I'm very interested to see what goes down with the rest of the season, as well as in particular what's going to go down in the next episode with all these new developments. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good